Welcome to the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network, a weekly broadcast sponsored by CVC Coaching, hosted each week by industry speaker, coach, author, and educator Jerry Eisenhower. Our presentations are produced to assist business owners and managers in turning their business dreams into their business realities. And now, here's your host, Jerry Eisenhower.
And I want to welcome you to another podcast here on the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network. This is brought to you every week by CVC Coaching. Be sure and check out our new online educational platform we call Basecamp. And also be aware we've got spring training scheduled in March in New Cumberland, Pennsylvania. We're going to be doing gas training and fireplace change-out training there. But today we're going to talk about something that's very important, because what you've got to be looking for today is, how do you retain your talent? How do you retain your talent? So today joining me is Brandi Biswell, and she's going to go over a process with us about the stay interview. So Brandi, you out there ready to rock and roll this morning?
I am. Good morning.
Good morning to you. And you know, one of the things about Brandi's a member of our team here at CVC Coaching, and she's probably one of the best resources for hiring, onboarding, training. Her and Cheryl Eisenhower have worked up some really great packages, and they're really helping a lot of people. In fact, Brandi's got a training trip coming out. You're going to work with a client in a couple of weeks, aren't you, Brandi?
I am. I'm working with a client in January and in February, so it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, let's talk a minute. What's your you got a presentation going on in Cranberry, Pennsylvania, I believe is the town for the Pennsylvania Guild. So what are you going to be talking about there, Brandi?
So there, they had invited me out to do the class that I put on at the National Chimney Sweep Convention last year, which was Office Success. However, that was an hour-and-a-half presentation, and we're taking an entire day to break it down. So it's going to be that presentation with a whole lot more involved. It's going to be very inclusive, we're going to do a lot of hands-on things. It's going to be fun. It's a really fun class. I'm really excited about it.
That's great. What kind of people should attend this class that you're doing there in Pennsylvania, Brandi?
Honestly, any business owner from any size, small to large, there are going to be great takeaways at that class. The business owner that's looking to retire, the business owner that's looking to grow, it does not matter. We are going to have a lot of great takeaways.
So you're going to be sharing some of those Brandi Biswell processes you've developed there at Flues Brothers, right?
Correct.
Are you going to share how to control your partner?
Well, that's a much tougher, that's like a whole nother subject. That might take like a week to break down.
I can guarantee you, that's a big thing right there. But anyway, let's move ahead with this, because like I said, one of the most important things today that people need to be looking at is building their team. And a lot of time we concentrate on trying to find new team members. But what we're going to talk about today is retaining your talent. And this is a very important thing, because you're going to invest a lot of money in training these people. And today, what's showing is that many people that are presently employed are out looking for jobs. They are actually applying. In the work that Cheryl's doing hiring for people, she's get the majority of her prospects are actually already, they are working presently, and they're looking for new opportunities, because the career path they're on is not one that is really suiting their needs. So Brandi has done some work into this in what is called the stay interview. So Brandi, let's start out there. Let's explain to our listeners, what is a stay interview?
Yeah, Jerry, I think you hit the nail on the head. We talk a lot, especially at CVC, we really focus on helping our clients get the right talent in the door and getting them hired and getting them onboarded. That's a big focus for us. But what we talk about less, but we're going to start talking about a whole lot more, is how do we retain that talent? How do we keep them working at our companies, happy, and know what makes them tick? And so that's really the whole point behind what a stay interview is. It's a retention interview. You're assessing the happiness of the employee within the company. You're asking them what makes them stay working. I'll use my company, Flues Brothers. What would make them want to leave tomorrow? Are they happy here? What can the management be doing to support them better? So we call it like taking their temperature. You've heard me talk a lot about that when I talk about the annual review, taking their temperature. You're taking their temperature to assess what's going to make them stay with you, because we've invested so much time, so much money, so much energy on continuing education, etc., that we don't want to see that person walk out the door if they're a great employee.
Yep. And one of the things that we've talked about before is we may have an investment of upwards of $20,000 in training this person, and we don't want to lose that talent. Now, here's also a key consideration for guys and gals listening. Many people do not leave for more money. Brandi, would you agree with that assessment that people leave for other reasons? In fact, many times it's talked about one of the leading reasons is the lack of leadership on the part of the company.
Yes, and lack of communication when they're hired, communicating those job expectations and what the job is really going to entail. And also, a lot of times people leave because of lack of growth opportunities.
Yep. So tell me, let me ask you this question. Why is a stay interview so important to the employee and also to the company?
So to the employee, a stay interview really makes them feel valued. In the year 2000, the Bureau of Labor Statistics started keeping a record of what they call quit rates. So a quit rate is somebody that's leaving voluntarily. They're not fired. They weren't on any disciplinary. They are just choosing to leave for other reasons. We've already discussed some of those. The interesting thing about this is, since the Bureau of Labor started keeping these statistics in 2000, when you look back at the last 9 years, the number of quits has increased steadily over that last 9 years. 3.5 million people, which is roughly 2.3% of the workforce, left their job voluntarily in October of this year. We talk about all the time, employees are our most valuable asset. So once we hire someone, we want to keep them. And a stay interview for the employer is one of the ways where we can, again, take their temperature and see, are they happy here? What can we do better to make them happy? I mean, as an employee, think about it when you've had jobs in the past, Jerry. You and I've both worked outside the industry at some point. Most people in their lives have. Just imagine walking into your manager's office and they're just asking you questions about, what's your favorite day? What does your best day at work look like? What does your worst day at work look like? And just how that makes you feel valued and loved at that company.
Yeah. So, Brandi, let me set the stage for this so people can visualize what we're talking about. If you're listening to this, you probably have a key employee, someone that you depend on. It could be at any stage of the game. And here's the question. How would you feel if that person turned in their notice tomorrow and decided that they were going to leave? And you did an exit interview and you found out that some of the things that they are leaving for, you could have corrected if you had simply done this stay interview. So I want to put you in this position right now of thinking, what happens if your key person decides to leave? What if it's a gas piper that's licensed? What if it is a guy that can do anything? These are people that are being headhunted out here tonight. So you need to be very aware of this. Do you agree with those thoughts, Brandi?
Absolutely. And oftentimes when an employee is leaving, it is something just simple that can be tweaked or fixed. Maybe it's even something, maybe it isn't something simple. Maybe it's something a little bit bigger, like they have a loved one at home who's sick and it's just giving them a little more flexible work schedule, or giving them, off early one day. But something small that may be a short-term fix that we can put in place that's going to keep them there and keep them happy. And because you're right, Jerry, with the unemployment rate being so low right now, these people are being headhunted and they are out there and they are actively being pursued. And people, whether you want to admit it or not, all your employees, they're at one point or another, they're looking around. Just they may be perfectly happy in their job, but they're looking around just to see what's out there on Indeed, what's out there on Monster, just is the grass greener on the other side. And so if you can conduct that interview and find that out and find out what that just maybe tiny, it might be something really simple that you can tweak. I mean, maybe it's something that, they don't like their computer anymore. Um, Something really simple that you can fix that's going to make them feel cared about and they know they can come to you, that's going to give you another 5, 10 years of service out of that person.
And it's a real interesting thing. One of my clients recently had an employee that they actually considered termination of. But when they found, what they did is they issued him a new truck. And it was the first new truck he had ever had since he went working there. And it totally changed his outlook and his productivity and his effectiveness in the company. And it's kind of like in leadership and sales. A lot of times when I'm conducting a seminar on that, I'm talking about the 80-20 rule. And what I'm talking about there is I don't think as employers, as managers, many times we listen enough. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. That made me, your example of the guy with the truck made me think of examples. I've been conducting stay interviews with employees and had them say, I've been running service all this time and I would like to be put on some repairs. Well, that's an easy fix. That's something that, I can correct within the next couple weeks. Just them giving them the opportunity to tell me, hey, I'm burnt out a little bit on service. I'd like to go back to repairs for a tiny bit. That's something that is easily fixed that can change their entire outlook. I love that your client did that with that truck. That is a great story.
Right. Now, what I want you to be aware of, I'm going to get Brandi, I'm going to give her some of the questions. This is a very important part of this, in that you ask a question and then shut up and let them answer the question. And not only that, Brandi, I'm going to advise that people write these answers down. Do you agree with that?
I absolutely agree. This process should be very informal. A lot of times when we're doing annual reviews, it's a formal process. I know for me, when I've been the one in the employee seat, there's anxiety that comes along with that because you feel like you're being graded on your performance. And this stay interview should be different. This should feel very relaxed, very informal, and just be that very open dialogue. Yes, you should ask the question and then just let them talk their heart out.
Okay, so so what I'd like for you to do is tell people some of the questions that you would ask during this day interview. And also, I think it's very important that you have to start this and put the person at ease. They're not on trial. This is a time for them to share with you what their concerns are. So how do you put them at ease? And then what are some of the questions, Brandi?
Absolutely. Just letting them know that, hey, this is just it. You can tell them a little bit about the premise of a stay interview, letting them know that exactly they're not in trouble, that we just want their honest feedback, that we just want to know how they're doing. And you don't have to call it a stay interview. That's kind of the corporate term. You can call it whatever you want. You can call it just a check-in if you like. That's what I normally call it with my first 90-day employees. It's just a check-in. So however you want to term it, you can do it in the office, but if you have an opportunity to do it elsewhere, maybe you have the opportunity, if it's a technician, to drive to a repair job and just pull them off that repair job for, an hour and go get a coffee. Or if it's an office person, if you have a chance just to take them out for a quick lunch, and just get into that informal setting where they're going to feel the most comfortable to open up and give you the most honest answers. And then I recommend no more than 15 to 20 questions. I wrote down 16 that I was just going to give our audience today, just some examples. And you can make it shorter if you like. You could max it out at 10, especially if maybe it is an employee that they are a little bit chattier and you want to just focus in on maybe 10 of those points. Definitely no more than 20. So some of the examples that I have is, what is your favorite thing about your job and why? What is your least favorite thing about your job and why? So just flipping the question for them. What would make your job here more fulfilling? And so that might be the example that you gave, Jerry, with your client, where they might say, well, I would love to have a new vehicle. I would love to have a new work truck. What do we do here that you would like to learn to do? So that may be an example of, maybe it's that technician, and for example, maybe they don't service gas fireplaces, but they want to learn to service gas fireplaces. Maybe you never knew that until now, until you ask that question. Maybe it's the office person and they don't handle anything with Excel and they want to learn Excel, and there's the perfect opportunity where you can send them to an Excel class. Another question would be, what would be a temptation for you to leave your job here? And I think, if you're picking and choosing out of these examples I'm giving, I think that's a great one to put at the top of the list. So I'll say it again, what would be a temptation for you to leave your job here? Because that's going to just open up a whole can of worms. Usually, as we said, it's not money, but maybe they'll say it's money. Maybe it's a more flexible work schedule. Maybe it's less of a drive time. So they may bring up things that we can't correct, but they may bring up things that are easily to correct. Maybe they're in a cubicle, maybe it's an office person and they want an actual office. So maybe it's something that we can figure out a way to correct. Tell me about a day at work that you have had that was your ideal day and you wish you had more days like it. That's another question that it really speaks to me. So have them describe what has been their perfect day for them while they've worked for your company. And then again, flip that question around. Tell me about a day that was just awful. And if every day was like that, it would make you want to quit. So you can find out what their worst day looks like. And then, it can be hard to ask some of the questions that are more about us, but you have to ask them. So an example would be, do you believe we are providing you with opportunities for growth? And they may say yes, and that's great, but they may say no, like I want to learn more masonry skills, or I want to learn that gas service, or I want to have more opportunities for continuing education. Do you think your wage and benefits are competitive for our industry? So there you are asking the money question. Do you feel appreciated? And that's another one that I think is so important to ask. And then what skills do you have that you think we are not utilizing or we could be utilizing better? And I love that one so many times when I'm interviewing candidates, when we're in that hiring process. One of the number one reasons why I'm finding that they left their previous jobs is because they felt that there was not opportunity for growth. We also know from the Bureau of Labor Statistics that that's the reason a lot of people leave their job, is because there wasn't that opportunity for growth. So I love that question, because that might be where they might say, no, I have these leadership skills and I want to be put in a leadership position, and I don't think that you as the company are utilizing those skills. Could be a different set of skills. And then what is your goal with our company over the next year? So we're finding out different way of asking the question to find out what is their goal. Hopefully they don't say it's that they want to leave in the next 6 months or a year. Do you feel comfortable going to your managers if you have an issue that arises? And then I love this next question, and because again, we're trying to make it informal, and I think it's just such a fun question. If you were to win the Mega Millions tonight and quit your job, what would you miss? So that's a great, again, taking the temperature. Maybe they're going to say that they're going to miss their coworkers. Maybe they'll say that they miss that interaction with the customers. I just think it's a really fun question, and it helps you again get back to what do they really love about their job. And then what is your dream job? Now I give this one, if you guys have heard me talking about interviewing, I ask my interview candidates when I'm talking about bringing a new person into the company, I ask them this question. I always like to give an example with that. So for example, I always tell them my dream job would be owning a coffee shop and serving coffees all day long. But finding out what their dream job is, because maybe in their dream job, there's a skill set that they would have in that dream job that you can bring into your business. So for example, going back to my example of owning a coffee shop, that requires a lot of skills with organization. But the thing that I love is I would get to talk with the people coming in to get their coffees and just to make their day. And that's skills that can transfer into any job. And then lastly, and I like to save this question for last, and I think it's a very important one. On a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to stay with the company over the next year? And so just making that your final stay interview question. So Jerry, what do you think about those questions?
I love it, especially when you start putting them in about the dreams. One of the things that I have, excuse me, that we've researched is the use of a dream coach to help your employees get to their dreams. And dreams are an important part, excuse me again, I'm sorry. And dreams are an important part of everyone's life. And knowing what your employees' dreams are, where you can help them get there, because just like you have dreams, they have dreams. And I love that you touched on all of those. But all your questions there, I love them because it's telling us what our employees are thinking. And remember, you've got to be listening and write. Why do you want to write these things down? There's several reasons. Number one, to remember them. But more importantly, what it tells the other person is that what they're saying is so important that you're making notes of it. It's a sales tactic that we teach in sales, that when your customer's talking, to always write down what they're saying because of the feeling it gives the customer. Brandi, how does it feel to you as a presenter? I tell people a lot of times, and when I'm doing a live presentation, one of the best things that picks me up is to watch someone stop and take notes during the presentation. Does it happen with you when you're doing a live presentation?
Oh, yeah, and you're exactly right. It makes me feel like, oh, what I'm saying is important. They're engaged and they think this is helpful information that I'm giving.
That's it. So, it's great to do these kind of things and you got to practice and get there. So, here's the final question for you, Brandi. When should we do this? Is this something we do annually, a couple times a year? What's your feeling on when this is scheduled to be done?
Yeah, so I'm going to give you two different times. So going back to that Bureau of Labor statistics, what they found was that 40% of quits, remember quits are people who leave voluntarily, in 2017 were employees that left within their first 12 months of employment. So almost half of the people that quit voluntarily were within their first 12 months of employment. About half of that 40% left within their first 90 days. So I think the first time we need to be doing that stay interview, I recommend every week in their first 30 days. You don't have to be asking all of these questions every week in their first 30 days. I would not do that. I think that would get a little redundant and seem a little crazy. But every week in that first 30 days, you need to be checking in with them. So just scheduling it like every Friday, just, hey, how was your week? What did you do this week that you loved? What did you do this week that you didn't like so much? What did you learn this week? And then after the first 30 days, I would switch it to every other week for their first 90 days, because remember that first 90 days is critical. And I've made this mistake before. I've talked about it in other podcasts where I had an employee who I failed to do this process. We hired him in the busy, crazy season, and I failed to do this process. And he left in his first 90 days and he quit via email. And my husband and I both looked at ourselves and said, we weren't doing our check-ins with him. We weren't doing the weekly check-ins. Would we have prevented him from quitting? Maybe not. But would we have prevented him from quitting via email and unexpectedly where we were just blindsided? I think absolutely yes. I think we would have had a heads up on it and could have maybe had a conversation and either kept him or at least had the heads up that he was not going to stay. So every other week in that first 90 days, and then I recommend this at 6 months, and then after that, I think you're okay to do it annually. Everybody knows their company best. It's going to be different for every company. So maybe some companies want to do it every 6 months. I think annually after that might be okay. But if you're doing it annually again, then that's when you are going to be wanting to do the bigger list of questions.
This is some super information, Brandi. And like I said, you're out here now working as a coach and a consultant for some of our clients, going in the field, working with offices now. So if people want to get in touch with Brandi and engage your services, how do they do that, Brandi?
Yes, the best way is to just send me an email, Brandi. I am Brandi with an I, so it's BRANDI at cvccoaching.com. And I would love to chat and to come to your place and help you out.
Yeah. And another thing you've got, Brandi, is you have a Facebook forum that a lot of people in the chimney and venting industry that work in offices, give them the name of your Facebook forum so they can participate there also.
Yeah, so that forum is called Creosote Calls. It was originally started when I was brand new to the industry and I was setting up coming into a chimney and venting industry office, and I had so many questions, and I felt like I had nowhere to turn. There were all these forums based on technical things, but nobody for the office. And so I set it up originally just for a place to come and ask questions. And then now now that I'm in the coaching business, I also will post just a lot of helpful articles in there. I posted one this morning. For 2019, many states have changed a lot of their rules and regulations. A lot of states have gone to paid sick time off that is mandatory. Some of those things change based upon the number of employees. Many rules, too many to list out. And so just making sure that your handbook is up to date for both the city, the state, and the federal guidelines for 2019. So I'll post from time to time just helpful articles on there as well.
Yep, and you've been helping some clients that are running into issues, and they're upgrading their employee manuals and other things to be better prepared so they're not caught in a bad situation. You agree with that?
Yeah, and I'm really here to help out with any situation you can think that would happen in the office, or with the technicians, whether it be HR related, work comp related, anything you can think of. I'm here to be a resource.
That's it. Well, folks, we want to thank you for joining us here on another edition of the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network. And Brandi, I just want to thank you for being a member of our team here, because you have certainly brought a lot to the table that's helping a lot of our clients. So you guys and gals, if you want to get in touch with Brandi again, you can email her at Brandi, and it ends with an I, at cvccoaching.com. And that will end this edition of the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network, sponsored every week by CVC Coaching. Take a look at everything we're bringing to the table for you guys. There's a lot of items that we have out there in our base camp online education, and the members of our team, such as Brandi, Cheryl Eisner, Aaron Marcus, our trainers, Bob Ferrari, Bob Wise, Ike Rowland, and we've just added a new guy by the name of Trent Simmons that'll be doing NFI pellet and hearth design training. So look us up, cvccoaching.com. And with that, we'll end this edition of the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network. Please join us every week here as we try to share with you ways to make your business better. See you next time on the next edition of the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network.
Thanks for joining us here each week at the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network, sponsored by CVC Coaching, providing you the coaching and educational outreach services you need to move to your dream destination in business and in life.